my friends. Hello, it is I, Alphinius Goo, and this is Goo Morning Zyathé, right here from Gooey headquarters, with Camera Mandy behind the camera. Say hello, Camera Mandy.
Hello.
That was a very, sort of not enthusiastic hello.
Hello.
Okay, that's a little better. Let's do it one more time. One more time.
Hello.
Yes, very good. Yes, Camera Mandy is one of our favorites, yes, except for this hatter thing. This hatter thing is a little bit disturbing.
You will be wearing a hat.
But I'm not wearing a hat
today.
tonight. It gives you hat head. You know hat head, Camera Mandy?
I wear lots of hats, so I do understand.
Yes, hat head is not good. Anyway, forget that. We digress. So we are here this morning to talk about marvelous things, about Zyathé, about the Kickstarter, about Game Master tips. Yes, don't say the other thing, right? Game Master tips, yes, and marvelous other things as well. We're going to talk to you about the next submission round. We're going to do a little reading of lore, and we're going to find out about the marvelous Goruund, which is a wonderful new race in the world of Zyathé, as well as the god Conundruse, my most favorite one, the god of chaos, and, the god of insanity, and also ingenuity, right? This whole idea, right? There's sort of a conundrum between the two of them. Oh, Conundruse. Anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're also going to hear from our marvelous friend James. We're going to have a little chat with him about their stream and also talk about a number of our other marvelous streams. We're even international. We have our wonderful friend Elias down in Central America. He's doing a whole stream down there. And then there is Schlachtenwuter, which is our wonderful friend Ben and his group out there in Germany. It is amazing, yes. So we are like Gooey International or something like that. In any case, what shall we begin with?
Everyone is saying hi to you.
Who is saying hi?
Everybody.
Oh, hello, my friends. You are marvelous. Thank you for supporting us. I cannot tell you, we are really committed to this madness, and we are very excited about all the things that are going on. I'm going to give you a good Kickstarter update, but I'm pretty sure that next week we're going to start shipping boxes in this interim shipment thing that we weren't planning on doing for Chapter 4, for the Westward book, for the map packs, for the gooey dice. By the way, speaking of dice, these are from Paradigm Lost, which is a gift from our marvelous friend David and our marvelous friend Evan, and they are here, and there's Christina's marvelous little, that's little Cubey. The other one in the other room is that little doobie. Which one is it, cameraman?
It's little Cubey and little Gooby.
And little Gooby, yes, not doobie. Yes, that was a bad thing.
We love all of the gifts that we get from our friends. I have a lot of them in my office.
Yes.
They make me happy.
Geeky Tish, look right there. There is the winged rat right there. A little further off camera is a hat that Michael Crawford sent. Yes, Michael, no more hats. Do not send any more of these things.
The hat is currently off screen that he is pointing to, but there is a hat there. He's not crazy.
Anyway, my friends, let us begin where we ended last time with the lore from the Chronicles of the Ventunium Alunax, which is the sort of history of Zyathé, right, as preserved following the woe of ruin. Now, if you will remember, in the last we heard about the creation, how Avova, the dreamer of the first dream, came forth from his slumber, right? But the dream remained. And out of that came all of creation, the Eterniverse, the gods, right? And the life world, the wonderful life world of Zyathé. Yes, marvelous. And so, at the end of all of this effort that Avova put forth, he slumbered. But not was all, as the Creator intended. And this next chapter, by the way, these books are stacked up here to hide my laptop, yes? So that this is Camera Mandy's strategy, right? So we can do this without having to dig in a book and me having to wear glasses, right? So that's the idea. So this next section is called The Birth of Doom. Meanwhile, in the farthest reaches of the void space, the four sparks of dark energy began to take shape and to gain consciousness, the foul defilement of their very existence an anathema to the creation that had formed around them. Yes, while their forming was slow at first, through the millennia that came afterward, these corrupted beings coalesced and took shape. The essence of their existence warped and twisted reality around them as their baleful power grew. And though their formation was a blight upon all things, in his slumber, Avova knew not of their ascent. For these were creations that were not of his intention. And though it would take thousands of years, these depraved and perverse creatures would eventually become the four lords of corruption. Anakria, the havoc dealer, lord of chaos. Nu'ul, the nothing lord, lord of the void. Voendeuz, the annihilation, lord of ruin. And Za, the twisted one, lord of the warp. As their power expanded, these most vile of beings watched the burgeoning cosmos with malevolent and hungry eyes. Over the millennia that would follow, they would cautiously grow their influence, slowly enhancing their powers through the degradation and corruption of only the most distant parts of the making. In time, they discovered the Zyathés, and once their power was sufficient, carefully penetrated deep within it. There they established a dark and malicious flow, which they then masked such that none would see save the Creator, but not while he slept. The four then used this disgusting channel to silently steal power directly from the sleeping Creator. This happened slowly over thousands of years, but it gave them strength far above the gods of Ovova's creation. As their strength grew, the four began to extend their minds further into the burgeoning cosmos around them, looking for anything that would satisfy their insatiable desires for the debasement of all things. 'Twas then they saw the life world. No part of the entire creation was as this wondrous planet in the Suleon system, the abundance of living things that flourished thereupon, the strength of the everflow that pulsed within every leaf and stone, and most wondrous of all, the God-breathed beings that walked upon it. It was a thing the four had never seen, nor even imagined, and in their own horrific way, they were enraptured. The grotesque depravity and horrific lusts that festered deep within their hearts were inflamed to levels bordering on insanity. There was now nothing they desired more than to bring their foulness to Zyathé, to corrupt the life world to its very core, and to drink deeply of the power they would gain by doing so. But now was not the time. Shall I continue, Camera Mandy, or is that enough for your show today? She is the director, you know. All right, we will do one more chapter.
Do you guys want to keep going?
Yes. What is the vote?
Uh,
maybe.
There's no comments yet, so we don't know what the vote is. I say let's do it.
Maybe
yes.
they all fell asleep.
Everyone's saying yes. Everyone is saying yes. Let's keep going.
All right, this is called The Rise of Life. And it came to pass that the gods spread their influence to the ends of creation to guide that which they had been given dominion over as they saw fit. On Zyathé, the mortal races gave worship to the gods and obeyed their dictates. In time, the races that lived upon the life world discovered that, in giving offerings and prayers to the gods, power was gained. Thus were the religions of Zyathé established, and grand temples were raised in communities around the world to honor the mighty deities. As the gods looked down upon their gathering flocks, they were pleased, as mortal worship also suffused them with power. Thus the gods granted favor to their worshippers and gave gifts of mystic forces to their priests. This, in turn, gave some gods eminence with certain groups of mortals, while other gods received supplication from differing groups according to the ways in which those mortals lived their lives. In the years that followed, the gods gifted their charges with knowledge and wisdom. As they quested for greater understanding, the mortal races began to master the Zyathés, to channel the flow, and to use it for their benefit. In their learnings, the mortals discovered that the flow was in fact not one, but three forces woven together to shape a greater whole, a trio of powers that seamlessly work together to give life and substance to all things. And as they used the Zyathés to influence the world around them, magic was born. Yes. In time, the communities became greater places of congregation, and towns and cities were formed. Governments were created to oversee these settlements and protect the people. This, in turn, saw many stop their evil practices as more lawful and charitable societies were established. As time progressed, the gods of evil were reduced in stature as the worshippers of gods of goodness and neutrality prospered. The creation of even greater and more complex communities required laws and rules and compromise, as well as higher standards of morality and integrity. These were somewhat antithetical to the teachings of the evil gods. As a result, those individuals and races that had a bent towards evil, their cultures that were structured in that way, were often driven away from the new centers of society, banished to live hard lives as outcasts due to their predilections. Many of them died, and the gods of evil felt the decline in their powers due to the losses of their worshippers. And thus, the seeds of conflict were sown. Then the races that worshipped the gods of evil beseeched their gods for vengeance against those who had wronged them. Their gods heard their cries, and their anger burned and deepened in their hearts. But their wrath was stayed, as the gods of evil knew they had not the power to defeat both the gods of goodness and the gods of neutrality. And for a time, across most of Zyathé, there was peace and prosperity, as the humanoid races bonded in fellowship with one another to form ever-expanding civilizations. They pursued wisdom and knowledge and used the gifts the gods had given them to mold the land to their liking. They shaped the everflow to their gain and did many wondrous things. And all seemed well and good. Yet amongst the purity of the Master's creation festered a wretched impureness. Deep within the everflow, a twisted and terrible thing existed, a defilement that had gone unnoticed since it had been placed there long, long ago. This small current of unadulterated foulness, which had been embedded in the Zyathés by the four lords of corruption, pulsed deep within the flow as a venom running through the veins of a doomed man. The gods of magic found it first: Evoke, goddess of light magic, Infiorni, god of raw magic, and Sha'ada, goddess of dark magic. These then shared their discovery with the other gods in their respective deific realms. Without knowing the properties of this new aspect of the everflow, the three gods of magic began to test and probe it, seeking to learn its purpose. But no matter how they tried, no matter what magical employments they enjoined, they were foiled in their attempts to do so. 'Twas then that the whispers began. Yes, and we shall stop there. The next chapter of the Ventenium Alunax is called The Dawning of Strife. Marvelous. What are we doing next, Camera Mandy?
Well, we have a few questions from the audience.
Oh, I would love to answer some questions.
Okay. Who are the bigger threats to Zyathé, the lords of corruption or the gods of evil?
Well, in truth, there are sort of a triumvirate. So I'm going to put out a little secret here that some know, but most do not, right? There is, in some of the materials that we have produced, there are some prophecies, Boudinot, the seer. There are some notations of things that are to come. And in reality, there are probably three major threats to the long-term health and well-being of the charitable and moral societies, if you can call them that, because there really are no purely good or purely evil or sort of even purely neutral societies on the face of Zyathé. But the lords of corruption, as we will find out later in this tale, have been placed in a prison of sorts. But there are cracks in the walls. The gods of evil are free to enact their ways, and they are certainly filled with an ancient and burning hatred of their godly brethren and sistren who occupy the deific realms of neutrality and the deific realms of goodness. But there is also a third group that are potentially coming to be. And we shall learn more about them as we continue in this journey of tale that we are doing. So perhaps my answer is, it is a tale still in the telling. Ha-ha! How was that?
Excellent. Will there be any more creation stories in the upcoming books?
So there will be some history and a little bit of creation information in the in the Essenverd, but not in the Westverd. And that was simply because the doggone Westverd was so doggone big, we couldn't fit anything more into it. So, we were supposed to try to do these doggone things at about 250 to 300 pages, and the doggone Westverd book is like 350. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Christy and Michelle. Thank you to all of the wonderful authors who stepped in there and helped to make it special with us, right? It is, I think we are getting the bindery samples back this early next week. So we are excited to see them all bound, make sure that they are good and tight and not going to fall apart and all of that stuff. So we are excited to get those out to you. And I know most of you have already gotten your digital copies. So hopefully you've had a chance to look.
And this last question is from our friend James, who we're about to show an interview from. How did you come up with the Ventinium Alunax?
The Ventinium Alunax. Well, so James, I just sort of make this crap up out of my head sometimes. There are many things I am not good at, but for some reason I got this knack for naming things. I don't know why that is, with kind of weird and interesting and sometimes very stupid names, but we do our best, right? But I liked the Ventinium Alunax. It sounded big, and it sounded broad, and it sounded intriguing, and that's why we did it.
Omega 0609 says, "What? This is all made up."
Damn it. I apologize, Omega. Jan, my friend.
I thought we're getting history lessons here.
Jan, it is good to see you, my friend. I hope you are doing marvelously. And Jan is one of our many friends who are across the pond, as they say, over there in Europe. And we are excited that so many folks out there who are supporting this craziness that we are doing. By the way, there is a place in Darkenhaven that is named Dark and Donuts, and that was actually a submission, but it is also a nod. Not only is it a submission from one of our marvelous contributors, but it is also a little nod to our friend Tyrone, who is in Holland, who is another one of our across the pond people, yes, as it were. But we thank all of you, domestic and international, for your support for us, because we are going to keep going on this crazy path, and we're going to see if we can keep telling some amazing tales, not just for you, but hopefully with you. What else?
And with that, we are going to go ahead and watch an interview.
Before you say that,
Okay.
Can I say just a couple of things,
Yes,
Camera Mandy?
go ahead.
So we are fortunate to have some marvelous people who are streaming in the world of Zyathé. As I mentioned, Schlachtenwuter, the folks in Germany already, and Elias and his wonderful crew down in Mexico. And of course, we have the first streamer ever, which was our marvelous Dan with Roll Hit Die, and Lawrence with his incredible group, the Uncanny Pros. Yes, well, thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. Yes, but I think I had it. And then, of course, the Tabletop Misfits with James, who we're going to talk to. Now, I want you to know something, because we've gotten a lot of requests from people asking, would we do a show on streaming? And I will tell you that it's very exciting because of the people that we have in our community who are streamers. And so I'm pretty serious that we will do something here in the next few weeks, where we're going to get James perhaps and or maybe James tech person and Lawrence and perhaps Dan and some others, and give them a chance to really school you up on things you need to know about streaming. Perhaps we could even get Ben to join us from Germany if he wants to do so, and maybe even Elias from down there in Mexico. But anyway, that's one of the upcoming shows. We're also excited about all the things that are coming. We're going to do some interviews with some of our authors and folks who have done things, and I hope you enjoy these. I found our chat with James to be quite marvelous. So, Camera Mandy, at your leisure. Ha ha! Ha ha! Ha ha! That's your warning ha-has, James. Here we go. Ha-ha! I am Alphinius Goo, and I am interviewing James from the Tabletop Misfits. Yes, they run around in Zyathé and do all kinds of weird things. I don't know exactly what they're doing, because when I watch the stream, it seems like they're always burning things down. But I don't really understand that, buildings, people, everything. Fireballs everywhere. Anyway, oh, what? Ha-ha! The Thule are there. Oh, ha-ha! Hello, James! How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you.
Marvelous, marvelous. So, James, listen, this is important. Before we even sort of begin this little chat, I want to make sure that I'd like to get you and maybe Lawrence and Dan, if he'll do it, and Camera Mandy, and maybe another folk or two, to talk because people have been asking about streaming, right? And you are, you're a streamer. So tell us a little bit about the stream and what you're doing and all that stuff. Will you do that?
Yeah, that's fine. So we are Tabletop Misfits. We are a small stream that's been growing exponentially over the last 6 months or so. And we are living in the world of Zyathé. We took a different approach than just running through the Red Star Rising. We are actually diving into the setting, into the West Verdestia, and we're having a blast. But a lot of it is player-driven, and the players are incredible.
So, yeah, burning things down on a consistent basis.
It's been that way. It wasn't expected, but they are definitely a group of chaos to reckon with.
Yes, pyromaniacs. Yes. So listen. So how did you get started on all this craziness? This playing these games and doing all this stuff.
So we first started. Do you want me to say how I got into tabletop? Or how I went into streaming?
Because your story is interesting because of the military thing and deployments and all this kind of stuff. So that's a good story. I think people will like that.
Yeah. So taking it all the way back, it was high school and then college. And then I had a huge window where I was playing randomly, but I wasn't game mastering at all. And then I went on my first deployment and ran into I brought a bag of dice with me and a player's handbook. And we went into the USO, which for anybody who's military knows, that's just the place where you hang out when you're not working because there's nothing else to do in the desert.
Yes.
And I challenged a buddy of mine, one of the other guys I worked with, who I found out also played because we started talking. And I said, hey, grab the bag of dice, go print out 10 character sheets. Let's see what happens. In one night, we had 8 players.
Yeah, I believe it. I actually have a number of friends through the years who were in the military who said, they play on base, they play on deployments because it is, there's not a whole lot of things to do. It's not like you can go out, when you're in sort of a war zone, it's not like you can go down to the local bar and have a drink or two, right? It's not
right. Yeah, so we started it just that way. The guy who I was running with, his name's Josh. He was the game master at the time. And before that, I didn't touch game mastering. I was enjoying his playing, but I always brought a crazy character to the table, and he was the one that challenged me. And he says, "Hey, your ideas are insane. Why don't you game master?" And
yeah, that's great. Yes. So, how long have you been doing that now? How long have you been a game master doing all this stuff?
I've been a game master since 2018.
So you've been doing it for 3 years. Well, you're pretty good. As you know, I support your stream. Really, I have enjoyed when I've watched. And you have a great group of players. They're just wonderful. So tell us a little bit about them a little bit.
Okay,
especially Crazy Pam and Weirdo Matt.
So the two guys that I brought to the stream were Decimus, who is our half Goruund barbarian, and Karis, who is our Oradrin cleric. Those are the two guys that I brought to the stream. And then through the wonderful world of Gooey, I found Matt, who now plays Delaire, Visanti, the Agent of Jinx.
Agent of Jinx, yes. Haha, marvelous.
And Pam, who is our Etherean spelldancer.
Yes,
so
no, that's fun. They are really, really wonderful. So you kind of got together and said, "Hey, y'all, let's do this crazy thing." How did that sort of come together?
It came together after one or two of the cons, and then we started talking a lot more during Winterfest. And from there, it just kind of spiraled into it. I said, "Hey, I want to start this. I want to promote this awesome world that you guys have created and that we've worked together on." And then on top of it, with the bonfire that we had started in September of last year and just ran with it. So me bringing that board into it, I was like, well, let's try, instead of just doing the Red Star Rising, I want to find a group of people who are willing to literally dive into the lore and let's have some fun.
Yeah.
That's where they came from.
Fun. Except for, again, you said bonfire. It's like it just began that way. It just continued. Yes.
Apparently so. It was already in the cards and we didn't realize it early. But yeah, it's been a great show. We've actually launched a secondary show called Tavern Talks, where we talk and we help game masters and players get more immersed into the game with different tips and tricks. And we've been able to do that with our wonderful friend Corey, who's Chrysalis Endeavors. And I've had a great time meeting him. And it just keeps opening. We're looking at launching another couple shows here in the next couple months. So
yeah, that's great. I really am astounded at the community, and Corey is of course marvelous. I know him well, and I made so many friends already. And it's just so enjoyable to make these acquaintances, and then those acquaintances become friendships. So listen now, James, are you going to be able to squeeze in a little trip to Gen Con, or is this just no way?
Oh no, I'm going.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes,
I
I'm
wanted to make
set.
sure.
So myself, Decimus, our barbarian, and Matt, who plays Delaire, the Agent of Jinx, all three of us will be at Gen Con. The other two players will not be able to make
Pamela,
it.
Yes.
Yeah, we won't have Pam and we won't have other James. So those two, due to travel restrictions and other conflictions, they won't be able to make it.
Yes. So you and James are actually working on a little secret project for us. Yes, a little thing. Yes, we are doing something together.
We are. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna let you tell as much as you want about that, but I'm gonna keep that one secret.
So listen, so as you all know who are watching, most of you probably are watching, know that Zyathé is collaborative, right? This is the idea, is to give lots of folks a chance to make little things to put in the world, like maybe a location or a strange encounter or a monster, right? But other folks who want to do a little more, the opportunity where it presents itself to actually do some authorship. And so, James, we are working on an interesting little project because it actually coalesces, and don't give away spoilers, but it actually coalesces with Chapter 3, does it not? And it's called The Witch's Wrath, right?
It is. Yeah. And there's, after some conversations, there's going to be a little more than just a little one shot. So I'm excited.
See, this is the problem. Everybody who collaborates, right, all of a sudden they want to write campaigns, right? This is Joshua's problem. Yes. Can you write me 20 pages, Joshua? And it's 36, right? So no, it is so wonderful. We have Marvelous Carrie who helps so much with the Westford, of course, AJ. I mean, there's so many people, Christy and Michelle and Casey and Jim Kenny, and just so many people. And if I didn't, Chris is there. I mean, there's so many. I can't name you all, but I love you and appreciate the wonderful work that you did, because the Westford's pretty good, James. Yes, you had a chance to look at the list.
Oh yeah, I've read most of it myself at least once, and we're starting to implement some of those that lore into the game, even on the stream. So if people haven't checked out the stream yet, that's definitely, you're going to see the lore that you all have written to be interpreted by myself, of course, but it is the stuff you guys have all written.
Marvelous. Well, here towards the end of this stream, we're actually going to unbox Chapter 4. So we're going to show people that. And our dear Alexander and our dear Jim Kenny also helped with that one, right? And in fact, that was sort of the beginning for Jim, was actually this. And then anyway, there's just some wonderful things. He also did stuff with the Westford. But the damn box is so thick, we can barely. I mean, what do you see, James? It's gonna blow your mind,
Oh, I bet. So I've got our Darkest Dream where it all started, right there at the top there. Yes. So,
well, I can't tell you, James, how much I appreciate you and your wonderful misfits, and it's also, it's a community thing, right? That you say nice things to people in the Discord and the Facebook, and you support others, and that is sort of the foundation of us, right? Is to be a place where people are safe and they don't feel like they're going to get beat up for anything, and we kind of just tread lightly on all other topics and mostly live in gaming, right? That's the better place to be for us, yes. So I have one more question, and then we're going to stop this thing, and I want you to sort of tell me true. What are you hoping for with the Misfits and your channel? What are you kind of looking towards, because we're going to support you. I told you this. We're going to give you giveaways and do other things and really try to help you grow this stream. We're going to do the same for Dan, do the same for Lawrence. There is room out there for people, because different people want to see different people, right? That's the way it works. So what do you think?
Our main focus, of course, is just to continue to build a community that is excited to live within the world of Zyathé. We've got a couple projects that we're working on right now, and we're trying to come up with the exacts on how to do it, where we want to make the stream as well as our Patreon interactive for the players in a larger scale. And this could be anything more than a couple poll questions where people are going to be able to answer questions and influence the stream itself, up to the point where we will be bringing groups of people together off the camera to play little one-shots with game masters that work in the world of Zyathé. And from there, what they do in those worlds will become part of the stream as well, where things can interact. So that's our full-blown...
It sounds so good, my friend. I mean, I'm really excited to see it blossom, so to speak, yes?
Yeah, so we took the idea, and I can't thank Casey enough on this. When you guys did the Order of Ooze and all of the talk of that, it brought it to, okay, that's an in-game thing that's with the card shops themselves. How do we do it online?
Yes.
So we've been, myself, Pam, and the rest of the Misfits, we've been kind of racking our brains together on how to do this and make it a really fun experience for the players, not just on stream, because there's not a lot of interaction there. We want to bring people into the actual world itself.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful, and I do encourage folks to check out James and the Misfits stream. I also, as I said, Lawrence, you've seen Lawrence's stream, James, and that's another thing is our streamers, they're not really like against each other. They're sort of rooting for each other, and that's really that's the way to be, honestly. So right, it's more encouraging rather than discouraging, right?
Because all of us stream on different times, different dates. We all have our own game style. It's a way to build a community as a whole. And one thing I've really loved about tabletop gaming in general is you don't usually get that fighting between streams or between games, because everybody's doing something a little different.
Yes.
And you're going to find your niche where you place yourself.
Marvelous. Yes, I hope that was great for you. Hope you enjoyed that, James. Thank you for taking your time to have a little chat with us. Hopefully we can bring back you or your tech person, as we discussed, so we can help people who are interested in learning how to stream a little bit more and do something about that. So also part of this Goo Morning Zyathé, we're going to do Game Master Tips as sort of a part of GUI University. We're not going to start that this week, but we're going to be doing it in weeks to come. So we're literally going to move from the office here, we're going to move to the table, and hopefully a lot of times we'll have guests around that table, and we'll give you some really, really good practical tips for improving your game mastering, and we promise not to go on and pontificate about them, for hours, although I have been known to be able to do such, right? So we'll do our best to not have that happen. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is part of our discussions here. We're going to cover lore of Zyathé, which we promised that we would. And we're going to talk about the new races. We're going to talk about the gods. And Camera Mandy, do you wish to start with the god, or Conundruse, or do you wish to start with the Goruund?
The god.
Would you like to do that? That's fine. So let us talk about Conundruse for just a moment. And Mandy's going to put up the symbol, because Conundruse is the deity of both creative thought and innovation and all of this, but also of insanity, right? Because there are some lines between that, and certainly we would know that in the real world that we live in, that this is actually something that is interesting. Conundruse is one of my most favorite of the deities. And I also want you to think, as you think about the lore of Zyathé and you think about playing Zyathé, there's been a tendency in a lot of worlds where you sort of, if you are a priest, you are a priest only of this god, right? And I would agree with that if you are a Conundruse priest, Conundruse is your god, your deity. That's where you receive your godly powers from and all of that. But it is very common for priests, even, which you will see actually in chapter 1 of The Darkest Dream, that a priest will actually sort of have a patron deity, but also a fairly significant group of additional deities that person will support, that priest will support. And that is not uncommon with the individuals as well. So your players are not going to just say, well, I am a believer in Conundruse and no one else, right? They actually, the characters in Zyathé believe in all the 72 gods. They absolutely believe in them and will give different tithes and offerings depending on certain circumstances, right? So if you're trying to perhaps invent something even if you are not a follower necessarily of Zind, right? You might go to the Temple of Zind and drop a little tithe in there to ask for Zind's help with your invention, right? Similarly, if you are a person who is really trying to be creative about something and come up with something, even if you are not a big follower of Conundruse, you would actually go forward and perhaps drop a tithe in Conundruse's place. That's why in many locations there are temples to all gods rather than individual temples, especially in smaller towns and villages where there just simply it wouldn't be affordable to have 72 temples in a village with 8 people, right? That wouldn't make sense, right? So this is why we have the temples to all gods, and in many cases the priests that are there could be actually of 2 or 3 different gods that are supporting that temple, and then they support the other gods as well and are not afraid to speak to the doctrines of all the gods, right? So there are probably some tension between those gods of evil and those gods of neutrality and goodness, and so the representation's probably not quite so good for those who are in places of relatively good moral turpitude. Turpitude. Is that a word, Cameron? Is turpitude a word? Ask the people in the audience if that's a word.
People in the audience. Alphinius would like to know, is turpitude a word?
It doesn't even mean something. Yes. All right. So let us move on from Conundruse. I hope you get a chance to read about this marvelous god in the Encyclopedia Zyathé Volume 1, The Wy'rded World.
People are saying yes, it is a word.
Ah, marvelous! Aha! Yes, I pulled it out of somewhere. Never mind where I pulled it out of. So these, my friends, these are one of our new races. These are the marvelous Goruund, and the Goruund are very large individuals. They are, approaching 9 foot in height. Some can be even taller than that. Certainly in the 8 foot range, 8 to 9 foot range. Very, very average. They are very muscular. They are very long-lived. They are, in our minds, a very spiritual people, and they typically do not tattoo themselves. They actually use ritual scarring of their skins, and the Goruund were created as sort of an homage to the stone and the earth of the world of Zyathé, and they keep much of their history in verbal history, and they sing songs of wonderful resonance, and we really love this race. There are special classes that we are working on for this race, like the stone singer, and there are others. And we are pardon me, cameraman.
I think I have a picture. Here we go.
Oh yes, of the stone singer. Yes, this is marvelous. Some people have seen this image. It is wonderful. It's one we've been doing as we've been working sort of on the races and the classes, because we are moving forward here on Encyclopedia Magica, which will have a number of these classes in there, as well as, hopefully, if everything goes well, sometime in the late fall, end of the year, we will do another Kickstarter, and that will include the Encyclopedia of the Races. And we are privileged because there's so many wonderful people in our GUI community who are helping us make lots of things, and our marvelous friend Corey is actually helping us a little with figuring out these races. Because what we want to do is to not necessarily have stats be the driver of what the interesting characteristics of this race is, right? So people have heard me talk about this. Perhaps you are a Goruund and you have a stone blood, right? And what does stone blood mean in terms of any kind of a gain or something that you get from being a Goruund who has stone blood? And hopefully we will be able to create an interesting table for all of the races. And by the way, not just the races that we have created, but also the traditional races as well. So if you want to have a dwarf that has iron skin, right, and you like the sort of the direction we're taking, perhaps you will get rid of sort of the traditional sort of methods for adjusting stats and use these cool attributes that each of the races will have available to them. We'll see what folks think, but we're pretty excited about it in terms of helping to further character backstory, helping to make the player characters more interesting and intriguing, and we think it'll be a lot of fun. We will see how it goes. Anyway, Camera Mandy's been showing all these marvelous images of the Goruund. This one she just put up here is one of my favorites. This is a Korat, which is the traditional riding beast of the Goruundish people. It is actually fairly adept on mountain slopes. It is big, as you can see. That is a 9 foot or so to 10 foot, about probably 9.5 foot person sitting on the back of that Korat, and these beasts are quite enthralling. I can imagine 5 or 6 Korat riding into town, right, on these things. It might create a bit of a commotion, as we might think, right? And this next one that Mandy is showing is a old Goruundish warrior with this just marvelous look, and we have so many wonderful artists that interpret these things themselves, right? We don't try to make everything exactly the same. We want to give the artist latitude to make things beautiful. But if you look at this, there's just so much character and intrigue. And I'm actually going to use this portrait in my home game because I really want my players to meet this personage, and I'm going to name this personage, and I think that it'll be quite a wonderful time. It also might be a wonderful character to play, right? As you look at them. The Goruund are very long-lived, by the way. I mentioned that. And they don't tend to leave their stone moots, which are typically high in the mountains. There are only a few that get wanderlust, and the ones that get the wanderlust tend to, for a period of time in their lives, become adventurers, perhaps even merchants. They leave their stone moots and come into the wider world, and this is sort of part of the backstory of the Goruund, but they don't do it forever. So even if you play a Goruund character, you might play for a while with the mortal races, but eventually you'll probably go back to your stone moot, or if in a very rare circumstance, sort of become something else in regards to the world around you. So anyway, these are Goruund stone moots, some concepts that some of our artists put together for us for what would a stone moot look like. And Mandy's gone through some of these marvelous images. I love the guy in the stovepipe hat, which Mandy is just putting up right now. You might even find that individual showing up sometime in the near future. And of course, this is actually Lawrence's portrait. The next one that's coming up right here. We actually took Lawrence's photograph, and he wanted to be a Goruund. And those of you who have seen Chapter 3 know that there are actually a number of our wonderful friends whose characters that are created after their images are in Chapter 3, and we hope to continue to add to that foundation, if you will, with having our wonderful friends be part of the Wy'rded World as we go forward. All right, Mandy, are there any questions about the Goruund? Anything people wanted to ask? Any thoughts that they were putting out there? There's so many wonderful people that have so many good ideas. So anything that you think I might want to talk about?
Some of our comments are, beware the old man in a world where men die young. That was deep.
Yes, it's very good.
Yes. And then there's a whole conversation going on between softlings and gnomes.
Ah, yes. Well, I'm going to give a secret right now because softlings, right, are halfling folk, but they are more browner of skin, and they have these wonderful dark freckles and this red-brown hair, and they really come from more sunnier areas. And they are interesting because they have an even greater wanderlust, right, than you would expect, because the halfling folk tend to be sort of stick at home, but the softlings are like, let's get out there, right, into the world. So I do think that when we cover softlings and talk about them, you're going to love them. And our gnomes obviously will have some of the same aspects that we're trying to do with our new races, rather than sort of, well, they're more dexterous, so they get this, or they're more intelligent, or they're obviously not more brawny. But we're going to try to make the character creation of all of these races more interesting for your player characters, for your players. So. Anything else, Camera Mandy?
Yes, I have a couple things. Team Hat is in the stream.
Hello, Team Hat.
Very
much
like...
I don't like any of you.
That's not true. He loves us all. I love you too. And then somebody posted the definition of turpitude.
And what does it say?
Depravity, baseness.
Oh, I completely used that word in the wrong context.
As you normally do. As you normally do.
Ah, yes. So moral turpitude is being sort of a dirtbag, so to speak, right? Marvelous. All right.
Yes.
Well, all right, Camera Mandy. So is the next thing you wish to
Yes.
do the unboxing?
Yes, and let me change the music for this.
Oh, we're going to change the music.
Just give me a
yes.
second.
So while she is changing the music, I will tell you a little bit. So first of all, many of you know our dear Alexander is began running these probably earlier than anyone else. And as such, I've been able to get from him some wonderful information, playtesting information, things like that. And he is not the only one, by the way. A number of game masters out there are sending me, hey, what about this? Or have you thought about that? And these are all wonderful things that we definitely take into account. And we appreciate always the input from you all. So don't be afraid to throw a little input. But anyway, so much of Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, which you will see soon, came from my home game. And indeed, Chapter 3 was originally going to be Chapter 1. And so there was a host of changes that we made as we began to plan out the campaign that caused us to create a new Chapter 1 and a new Chapter 2, and then to move to Chapter 3. But when I was talking with Alexander, Alexander had a suggestion. And I thought about it, and I thought it was a marvelous suggestion. And so he and I began working together on what I call a front end for what was originally the Dreadmist Curse, which at that time, mostly it was Jim Kinney and AJ and myself. And we were working very hard to make this thing spectacular and interesting and creepy and all of that stuff. Anyway, so we put this front end on, which was supposed to originally only be about 15 or so pages. And Alexander went a little crazy, and I even made it worse after I got the stuff he turned in. And so all of a sudden, this thing got really big. And many of you have heard me say that I was very worried about it fitting in the box. And indeed, it did not. So most of you who have our stuff will see that we normally put all of our materials on what is called 100-pound paper. It's a little bit thicker. We always try to use really high-quality paper, but the 100-pound paper is a little bit thicker. And when we put it on 100-pound and did a test, it was actually about 1/4 of an inch above the top of the box. So it was not going to work. So we then ran it all on what's called 80-pound paper, so that's a little bit thinner, but it's still high quality. And it barely fit. And so this is where, most people in Kickstarters try to figure out ways to cut their costs after the Kickstarter. Somehow we figured out ways to increase our costs. So much love to you all. We want to give you a great adventure. Hopefully when you get this, you're going to be blown away. There's so many hours of play in here. I don't even know yet, but it is a lot. So let's do a quick unboxing. Ready, Camera Mandy?
We are ready to go.
All right, so are you going to the other camera or are you staying on this one? Which one are you
We
doing?
will transition between the two depending on...
Oh, transition.
I know, fancy editing.
All right, well, as you can see, this is the Dreadmist Curse, and it is probably my favorite artwork that was made thus far for the entire world of Zyathé. All of the stuff we have done. It is called Belania's Sorrow, and it is haunting for me. It is just there's so much in it. About 50% of the people see the monster in the window behind. About 50% don't, and it's just really, it's got so much depth. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm not going to belabor the point. But it is marvelous. So as we see, we open this thing up, right, and you can see that it's pretty much right at the rim. Right, you see that Camera Mandy is at the rim, right? So as always, we've got to read this first in here so you can get a little bit of information. And we also, I did mention this, we're going to dial back a little bit on the magic items in this in going forward, because by now most of the player characters have gotten some pretty good magic, and we even put a custom card in here so that if you wanted to give a special card to your player, a special magic item to your players that wasn't included, you would be able to do so. So those are the magic item cards. There's a few cool new Gooey editions cards that are being added to this, and I see the frame is frozen, Mandy. Do I need to worry about that, or are you just doing it there? So we have a few additional Gooey rewards cards that you can add to your deck which should be getting nice and thick now between the first couple of chapters and first 3 chapters and now this one. Then we actually had to split again, to make it fit, we had to split the portrait packs. We had to split them up into 2 different stacks, because if we put the whole stack on the top, it was going to bend the box. So that is what we did with the portrait packs, and they are really, really wonderful. There's an awful lot going on in these portraits, because there's really 2 significant tales going on in this book. So there's some marvelous. Can you see that, Mandy? Is it in there? Yes, showing. So yes. Oh, so so I have to stay to this camera. Yes, I don't mind. It's not a problem. Anyway, there are many wonderful portraits that are in here that I think you are truly going to love role-playing so many of these wonderful characters. Anyway, all right, so that is that. And then, my friends, we have the Dreadmist Curse adventure book. Now, I want you to remember the size of our adventure book when it's on 100-pound paper, and this is the size of our adventure book on 80-pound paper. This is actually about as thick or thicker than any of the adventure books we've done, and it's on the thinner paper. So we actually had to cut some corners in here in regards to, we couldn't put all the portraits inside. Can I show it, Mandy, like this? So we couldn't put all the portrait images inside because we were running out of space. So there are no portraits that are noted for the Game Master in here. You'll have to just look and use the portrait numbers. But it is, and we even cut back a little bit on having all the illustrations being in here because of the circumstance of it being too big, right? So that's pretty exciting, that you get so much adventure for your money. This is the Game Master's reference book, which you can see right here.
We have a question.
Oh, yes, please.
Are the cards in resealable bags or shrink wrap?
So we are bagging them all now. This is our new thing because of suggestions that people brought to us. And they said, goodness, would it be better if you bagged them for us? And we said, doggone right. And so that's what we have begun doing. So we've begun using bags for all of the cards and all of the portraits going forward. So hopefully you like that. This is the Game Master's reference book, and it is got a lot of stuff in here. There are obviously all of the battle stats and the not so random encounters. It's got all of rumors and lore. It adds to the player backstories and secrets. And there's just a lot of going. There's some great fiction in here. I think you will love it. Now, this is a pretty intense tale, so make sure that as a game master you do a little reading ahead of time, because always we want to take into account the people at our table, and if something might make someone uncomfortable, especially when you're dealing with horror aspects and terrible things happening to individuals, you just want to make sure that you temper your game to the people at your who are sitting around there, right? But I think you will love this marvelous
That is
marvelous
Alphinius'
tale.
way of saying there's a trigger warning.
There's a
On
little,
there,
yeah,
there's a little bit of trigger warning.
yes, there might be a trigger in all of our materials. In fact, frankly, in most adventures, you need to think about this, right, always as a game master. In many adventures, because you're dealing with bad people who are doing bad things most of the time, right? And hopefully your players are coming against those bad people and getting them to stop doing bad things, right? So in all of those things, there are things that happen that are not necessarily always nice. And so you always want as a game master to kind of think that through, know your players at your table, and not throw something out that might make somebody, get a little bit of, a little bit of heartache out of it, right? So that's really an important thing about being a game master, and put that in your mind if it is not something you've really thought of before.
There's a GM tip. We have a couple
Yes,
questions.
please.
For you. Any idea how long before Chapter 4 is converted for Roll20?
So our dear friend Casey is doing that, and he is working on it. It normally takes him somewhere around 70, 80, 90 hours to maybe even 100 hours to get that done. So I know he's working on it. He wants to get it done. As you all know, we let Casey get a nice little percentage of any sales, so he's being taken care of, and we want to continue that for him because of the efforts that he's put forth. So as soon as he can do it, it will be done. And we, like I mentioned, I think we're going to start doing shipping here next week of Chapter 4, the Gooey Dice, map packs, those kinds of things. And as soon as we get the final and the bindery for the Westward, we're going to start shipping those. So if you have a Kickstarter back that just had the Chapter 4 in it, you might see a box coming your way next week, depending on how many we can get put together, because all of these have to be, hand assembled and all that. This is your Game Master cheat sheet with all of the various people and such in. Oh, do I need to do it this way, Mandy?
There you go.
All right, there you go. So this is your Game Master cheat sheet. I apologize, I should be paying attention to your screen. So this is the cheat sheet. It has all of the various characters that the players will encounter. So you got a really easy way to work with them, and it even has little additions for the things that you add to the tale, which is marvelous. Our maps, there's so many doggone maps in here, and they really are spectacular. And there's a player's map and a game master's map. This is a little town that your players will go to. This is made by our marvelous Smash Case, who did this. There are interesting wilderness type things. There's an estate. Goodness gracious, I'm kind of spewing things all over the place, but there's a marvelous estate that they're going to encounter. And then some of you have seen, and I don't want to show too much here because I don't want to give spoilers, but this is the estate house interior. And look, is that not magnificent? It is just stunning. So we have just a bunch of maps in here with both Game Master versions and with player versions. And if I had fingernails, I could get them all out at once, but I don't really have fingernails. But I'm very close to having them all. And you know what I'm going to do, if you don't mind? I'm going to do this. So I apologize, Mandy, but I'm going to spin this out like this because it's the only way to get them out. There we go. All right. So just for everyone's edification, this is how crazy we were about this. Here, along with these here, are all the maps for this marvelous section of the tale.
Wow. Guys, this is the first time I'm seeing this.
Yes,
and
Hammer
I'm
Mandy.
blown away.
So that is really exciting. Now, also, most of you all know who have gotten our materials before that we have handouts in them. And normally we do, 60, 70 or so, 80 of these handouts. Well, this is the handouts for this chapter, and I will tell you there are nearly 120 of them, and they are incredible artwork, wonderful aiding of your immersion. There are not just pictures of places, there are pictures of creatures, there are secret handouts, there are location information. It's stunning, and you will see that I just can't imagine that you aren't going to take your players through this chapter 4 and not have them just be truly blown away. If, of course, you have prepared ahead of time. If you try to run this and just read it out of the book, you will probably not give them the experience that we all hope for when we're trying to provide a wonderful experience to our players. All right, any questions on this stuff, my friends?
Yes, we have a few things going on. First off, this isn't to do with Chapter 4, but people are wondering when the next submission round is.
Oh yes, I will talk about that in but a moment.
Okay.
So let's do that when we get done with this, and then we will discuss that.
Geeky Hoodie is wondering if you have told us when you will be wearing a hat.
So Camera Mandy and I had a little discussion this morning on this, Sir Geeky. By the way, were you here when I pointed out Tish's marvelous artwork, the winged rat that she did?
I think Geeky just got in.
Oh, Geeky. So if you look up here to my right, I think you can just see this marvelous little creation of your dear Tish, and it is wonderful. And I mean, and hopefully over time, as we get these wonderful various things, even this abomination, yes, even this little abominable thing, yes, this. Yes.
Hold on.
You want me to hold it like that, Mandy, so you can put it on the other camera?
Yeah, hold it straight up. Hold it straight up. Get it a nice. There we go.
Yes.
By the way, Elle is making you the bonnet.
Yes, well, this bonnet shall never see my head. Yes.
No, you promised if Elle made the bonnet, it's on video.
But anyway, that was from our dear Harry. And by the way, he's coming out here in a couple of weeks because he and Marvelous Michelle gave us wonderful backing with the Gooey immersion, and we're going to have a weekend with them, and we're going to actually do a stream with them. One of the Goo Morning Zyathé will be that, and we're going to talk about Harry's marvelous miniatures because he has made a lot of them for the world of Zyathé, and we're about to sort of after he gets here and we've had our chat with him, we're going to put them all up on the website for you to see and hopefully to purchase. And Harry gets most of that money, so you're supporting another member of your community, in doing that. So and we just appreciate it because he just did it out of the blue. This was I remember meeting him at Gen Con and in 2019 when we were just starting out, and the next thing you know, I think, Harry, was it the, if you're here, Harry, was it the Arachnic Revenant was the first thing you did? I know Myron the Ugly Troll was right there, and there was one, I can't remember. I just can't remember which was the first one that you did, but it just blew all of our minds, and we are so appreciative of Harry. And there's, anyway, Christina's little, I mentioned Gooey and Newbie, or Gooey and Gooey, QB and Gooby is
Gooby,
yeah,
yes.
That is. I got it. All right, they're there. And then Mark Gordon showed up and brought us these little cubes that we're painting. So this is one of the signs that sticks out of this cube. So we have a lot of fun treasures that folks have provided to help sort of further the cause. All right. Any other questions we got, Camera Mendy?
We have just a lot of amazing comments about the maps. People are really excited about the maps.
Thank you.
I have a suggestion that we get a life-size version, like a bust of you, and put a hat on that.
Yeah, that's a bad suggestion. Who did that? I want to know them. They're definitely a member of the Hatters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Peter and Andrew Payson.
Ah, yes. Okay, Andrew. Yes.
Okay, I read that as Peter and Andrew, but I realized it's Peter
Andy.
Andrew.
Yes, it is Andy. I know you, Andy.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
I did not know you were a Hatter, but now I do.
Everyone is a Hatter. Okay, but yeah, people are just incredibly excited about the handouts, and some people say they don't have enough wall space for the handouts. Yeah, we're planning on starting shipping next week, I believe.
Yes, so we've put together the first, I think, 10 to 20 of these that were hand assembled on Friday, and we're going to put together some more next week. And the biggest holdup for anyone getting this is whether the Westward. We just got to do this bindery test, and all of the book has been printed, but we got to do the bindery test. And I apologize for this taking long. It just does. You want to make sure you don't have mistakes, and even still, a typo is going to sneak through. It's just
Many typos.
Many typos.
Just prepare for it.
Yes, there'll be probably a few.
We are an indie company, and we do what we can, but I think everyone would rather have the chapters in their hand than us proofread it for the thousandth time.
Yeah, well, we you get a few, but I think generally we're pretty clean, which is marvelous, And of course, Kai has helped with that, and Jens has helped with that, and again, I want to underscore this. You would be surprised at how many folks right now are actually working on Gooey Cube stuff who just began in the Contributors Guild and then expressed a desire. We have wonderful Keith and AJ who are up with Adventure Archipelago. Our marvelous Kendrick. Working with Josh, are doing Donovan, Jason, and Nate, and our friend Michael are working on the Vindraxian Tundra and the Waste. As I mentioned, Carrie, marvelous Carrie, who is such a wonderful surprise to me, is kind of heading up that whole Essenverd thing and helping me out. But Rob took this idea that I had for Strangely Gooey Holiday and just made it really wonderful. I think you're going to love it. Adam is working on this thing called the Glooming Doom, which is part of our thing, and it's a really creepy sort of eldritch horror almost kind of adventure that takes place in the Gloomport, and it's really coming together nicely. Obviously, you heard me talking with James about the Witch's Wrath, and it's just it's really coming together great. John is working on the Menace in the Mist, and our dear Jens and Casey, obviously with the help of the Darkenhaven contributors, did so much good stuff on Darkenhaven. So that gets me to the next submission round. So the submission we are going to do are more street encounters. And the reason we want more street encounters is because we want a real bunch of them. I would have said a buttload, but Camera Mandy doesn't like me when I say those. Sorry, Camera Mandy. A lot of them. We want a lot of street encounters for when people are traveling around the city. So we want lots and lots of them. So we're going to do another round of interesting and fun street encounters that people can experience when they are traveling around the city. So we haven't opened it yet. We will open it soon. There'll be an email that will go out about it. Our dear Gooey L will make sure it's all set up with a Gooey Riley, and we'll make sure that is well done. So that is our next submission round. And then in terms of the quick Kickstarter update, you sort of already heard where we are. A lot of stuff is being produced. We're getting very close to finishing the third map of Darkenhaven, which we are very excited about, because there are 6 maps, as you know, poster-sized maps of Darkenhaven. We have finished producing 1,000 of the West Verdestia map packs, which are glorious. And if you were a Kickstarter backer and you did not get one of those, but you would like one of those, if you are a Kickstarter backer, we're going to hold that $40 price for our Kickstarter backers and until we sort of deploy them, and then they go to $50. Yes, Camera Mendy.
We have some questions about which city we're doing the encounters for.
So this is going to be for Darkenhaven, and it is also going to be for the Gloomport. So you can do it for either one, and you can say this is for the Gloomport, or you can do one of each, right? Because I'm hoping that, because they're typically only about a paragraph long, I'm hoping that each of you will do at least a couple of them, and we'll have a nice reward for that. Probably, as you know, the rewards we are doing, we're trying to give at least about a $15 to $20 value in those rewards for people who contribute, which for most folks doing less than a page of content, that's a pretty good trade. And we never want people to feel taken advantage of. We always want to do right by our GUI community. So, yes, Camera Mendy.
Okay, we are going to have to wrap up here because we're
running to the end.
We have one more question, though. Places or NSREs?
NSREs. Let us have it be actually on the streets, not locations.
Just to be clear for anyone who is new, an NSRE is a not so random encounter.
Not so random encounter, because random encounters are silly, oftentimes. We like to have more intentionality behind our encounters and to give the Game Master more latitude in being able to deploy those. We'll talk about those more as we do more Game Master tips. Anyway, my friends, this is pretty much it. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this and you haven't followed us, please click the little follow button. Camera Mandy will really appreciate that on the Twitch. We would like to add to our followers, so if you think this is good and fun and interesting, please tell your friends about it. And we're going to try to have this sort of be our meetup for a lot of the time, though I still might do some Discord meetups because I like the intimacy of those as we go forward. Anyway, my friends, this is Goo Morning Zyathé, yes? And you are in the Gooey Cube at Gooey Headquarters with Camera Mandy and me, Alphinius Goo. May all your adventures be sticky. Aha!